Most leaders come in, they see all the things they want to change, and they just change it. When you're standing in the middle of a field and you're looking around at the harvest and you don't like the harvest, stop focusing on the harvest because you didn't plant those seeds. And one mistake doesn't negate a lifetime of obedience. Yeah. What if we came into church with the awareness that within 10 feet of me, someone's hurting?
Exactly.
And I'm so focused on a stage. Church has become a place we go to receive and not give.
Yeah.
Well, if you're enjoying Table Talk, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Remember to click that notification bell to stay up to date on all of our latest posts. Well, you know, taking on a struggling ministry or organization can be challenging, especially when you didn't create it. But some individuals are called to restore and rebuild, and today's guest is going to encourage and empower leaders from his new book, ReLeader, How to Fix What You Didn't Break. Wow. But before we get to that, join me around the table is Kendra Kelly Dean.
Hey.
How do you like that title?
I love it.
ReLeading.
ReLeading. Here's the thing. God has given us all special gifts.
You've
and
been
some
a
people are
ReLeader.
strategic. Absolutely. And I love fixing things.
Yeah.
That, like rehabilitation is one of my gifts. I love it. It's so funny, restoring things. But a lot of people, God has gifted them with that strategic mindset. And I think it's wonderful that we can use those gifts in the body and help churches who might need an extra oomph to get over that hump and just watch them succeed and excel and watch the whole church be healthy.
Well, yeah, because you have an interesting perspective because you and your husband, Dusty, you begin to lead a church that you didn't actually start.
Exactly.
And we're going to be talking about a business or organization where the leader has retired or maybe graduated to heaven or maybe left.
And you're inheriting staff that maybe you didn't hire. Right. As well as people who were there for the others, but now you're trying to win them over to you. I mean, it's a whole thing, but we need people like this in their giftings. It's beautiful.
We do. Dorothy,
Hello.
you know, work in the secular world.
Yes.
Have a very important position, HR.
Yes.
And you came into something where you're ReLeading, right?
Absolutely. You know, this is really good. I always say to the employees, you know, all of us, no matter what position you are hired to do, you're leading. If people are not following you, something is wrong. And I'm not talking about social media followers. I'm talking about
Thank you very much.
a leader.
Yes.
Right. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah, so it's so important.
That's good. So I think it's neat, the ministry and the business perspective. It's always good to have Cindy Johnston at the table. I'm thinking about you and your husband starting a church, and now you have transitioned in a positive way.
Yes.
Everything's good.
Yes.
But still, someone's coming in that's not you guys, and you were there for 30 years.
Yes, and we had to have strategic planning because we wanted people to love the person that was coming in, and we had to take time.
That's not always the case, though.
Not always. Not always.
I know it is the case with you, but I'm just saying.
No, it's not always the case, and it is difficult for the church, for the people that have been there to transition, and they feel almost like they're being, they're not holding on to what was the people they love, that they're releasing them. But you're not. You're just, it's just a new season.
That's good. Cindy Murdoch, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
You've been in several ReLeading positions.
Oh my goodness. And you know,
I think about you coming in at different junctures to lead worship in churches or to travel and, you know.
So many different avenues and platforms. And I was thinking about the song, I want to spend my life mending broken people.
Oh, that's...
And I think that when you ReLead, oftentimes you have to somewhat have that mentality that there's going to be broken people, broken emotions, all kinds of things like Cindy was saying when people have to let go or something happens in a leader. And so it is.
So we're going to go there. Well, he is a pastor, author, and founder of ReLeader. Please welcome Jon Chasteen. Come on in, Jon. Come on in and ReLead us.
Hey, ladies. How are you guys?
Good, good, good.
Good.
Did you ever think you'd write this book?
I didn't. I didn't even know what this was until a guy helped me discover who I am in a conversation, and he ended up forwarding my book. I was having this conversation, and He said,
That would be Craig Groeschel.
yeah, it's Craig.
Yeah.
And he
like
said,
him,
hey,
yes.
let's do some pastors' roundtables and for church planting. And I just said, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to plant churches. And he goes, then what is it that you do? And I don't know if you've ever had something come up out of your stomach. You say it before it goes through the filtration
you didn't
system.
even mean to say it.
No, I just said, I fix broke stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, what do you mean by that? And I said, man, everything I've ever done, I've never started a church, I've never built, I've always restarted, rebuilt, regrown. And I just saw this pattern in my life, whether it was in university, higher ed, church, even secular jobs I had. So yeah, he said, then you need to do that. And so that's where it came from. Yeah.
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 Well, I love this. It says how to fix what you didn't break. And
Yeah.
of course, your personal story, I know, parts of
Yep.
that where there was a moral failure
Yep.
in a very beautiful church
Yeah.
with beautiful people.
Yep.
And I think that's probably the thing that gets to me more than anything else is all the innocent people
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that are sometimes impacted by bad decisions that a leader may make. And that's why we have such a huge responsibility to whom much is given, much is required.
Yep.
But anyway, here you are. You find yourself moving into the position of helping
Yeah.
lead this church that you didn't start.
Yeah.
That has all these employees and all these systems and all these programs. Tell us a little bit about that. And did you kind of have skid marks in the grass as you were being
Absolutely. I mean,
I got so many skid marks from the Lord going, no, you're going to do this.
Well, I never wanted to be a pastor. Like, I was in higher ed. All of my degrees are in higher education. I was a vice president at a university. I ended up becoming a campus pastor. I was attending Victory Church. I just attended it. I ended up, long story short, became a campus pastor there for 3 years. And then whenever the moral failure happened, they asked me to be the interim, which I thought they had lost their mind. I'm like, why would you want me to do this?
Because so many times, Pastor John,
Yeah.
and I'll say this to pastors, the gift is within.
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll go searching everywhere out, but the gift is right there in front of you if you'll just recognize it. And
true.
our dear friend that we love here at the table, Jimmy Evans, recognized that
Yeah.
in you.
Yeah, so I was in a room with Jimmy, and he was meeting with someone else in our church about another topic. And I had just met Jimmy Evans. I didn't even know who Jimmy Evans was. I didn't have a clue who he was.
You didn't even know the marriage guy.
I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about him. And they talked for a little bit, and I had just shook his hand and sat down, and he said, let me stop you. That's your senior pastor right there.
Wow.
And I was thinking, who's behind me? Somebody behind me. So yeah, Jimmy's
You
been
know somebody did that to him, like in Amarillo.
at Amarillo.
Right.
Same thing. I know
Yep.
that couple, that story.
Really?
That just said, God's anointing is on you, and I'm going to.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? Same thing.
Yeah, and if it hadn't been for him and other men in my life that just believed in me and helped me, because ReLeading is lonely business. It's hard work.
Yes, it is.
It's really challenging. So yeah, that's how I got where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm just going to start around the table and let y'all go. I know, Kendra, you have a question you like to ask.
What is some of the best advice that you could give? Because actually, Cindy and I both have been in this situation where my husband's grandfather founded the church, then his dad pastored the church, and now we're pastoring the church together. And so it can be, I've seen
Three totally different types of leadership.
Yeah,
Wow.
but at the same time, the church is 64 years old, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful,
Yeah, which
right?
is how it should be.
It's how it should be, multi-generational.
Yes.
But we have some friends where it didn't go so smoothly for
Yeah.
them. And so what do you think is a really key component whenever you're, especially when it's family, because family's tricky, especially when you're talking about finances and
The
staff and
expectations.
all of these things that come together.
Or even entitlement and all,
Yeah.
these
all
other
of that.
things.
Yeah.
But honor is so important. But what are some key components that they have to come to the table with first for there to be a harmonious transition?
Yeah, I think I write about this in my book a little bit. A lot of my book is about how Solomon built the temple. Nebuchadnezzar came and tore it down. Zerubbabel came and rebuilt what he didn't break. And it really is this step-by-step process. Well, there's this really fascinating passage that says they built the altar on its foundation. And then they built the foundation. And you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. They built the altar on its foundation, and then they built the foundation. And so the foundation is the Temple Mount. It's right there where the gold dome is, right? So they didn't have to rebuild that temple. I mean, they didn't have to rebuild that foundation. It was already there. And what I think every ReLeader has to understand is long before you ever came, God spoke.
That's right.
God called a man or a woman to do a work.
Yeah.
And when the ReLeader comes in, it's not my job to say I get to do whatever I want. I got to go back and say, what was the original foundation that God said to build this on?
And what was the vision? That's important.
Yes.
I think.
So-
I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
Or what was the mission statement, if you will? It's like,
And you can even articulate it a little bit differently, right?
Yeah.
But the culture, the vibe, so even Victory Church, Mark Crow is the founder. He's an amazing man, amazing leader, amazing preacher, made one mistake, you know? So it doesn't discount all of the great things that God did
Exactly.
and the foundation it was built on. And so they used to always say Victory Church is a hospital for the hurting. So we still are.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't change, that doesn't stop. So I think that's critical. And then I think the second thing, and then love to hear any thoughts, is I think the biggest mistake that most leaders make is they know what to do. Because that can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Because anybody that's sharp knows what to do. The problem is they don't know how to do it or when to do it.
Right.
Most leaders come in, they see all the things they want to change, and they just change it.
Yeah.
Not realizing that you're giving the entire organization whiplash. Because they're
Yes.
so used to, we've been doing it this way for 10, 20, 30 years.
and you call that an organizational whiplash.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when someone comes in and is like, well, I don't like it the way they do any of that stuff. We're just
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah, any leader can.
Or this need to prove yourself
Yes.
so badly
It's an
that you
insecurity.
totally undo all the beautiful
so
things that
true.
were already
It is
there.
an insecurity.
The analogy I use is if you've ever been on a cruise ship, you can sit in a cruise ship, you could be in the kitchen, in the dining room, in your bed sleeping, and the ship is turning 180 degrees, and the best captains can do it without anybody on the boat knowing they're doing it.
Just the slow.
Yeah.
Slow, steady.
Slow.
There's no, re-leading is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And any leader can grab a wheel and turn it hard, but you're going to throw everybody off the boat. And so I think patience is so critical
Yes.
in re-leading.
And over
Trust is
time, your
critical.
fruit will
Yes.
speak for
Yes.
itself.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that helps to build trust.
Yes.
So like, again, that word comes in patience.
Yes.
That you have to be patient through the process. But in time, your fruit will speak for itself.
Yes.
You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to
Yes.
explain who or what you are, that God put you there.
So I'll tell you a story of my friend Jimmy Evans. Our friend Jimmy Evans called me. I was probably a year in. And I would always look at my phone and it would say Jimmy Evans on the caller ID, always when I was in an emotional fetal position. and Jimmy, you know, you guys have heard Jimmy talk, he's like, Jon Chasteen, let me tell you something.
When he
And-
calls me, he's like, Johnny, this is Jimmy. I'm like
you don't know.
What's he going to say?
He's always got something to say. He don't call for anything. For nothing. And he said, John, the Lord showed me something this morning while I was praying for you. He said that you woke up and you're standing in the middle of a field and you're looking around at the harvest and you don't like the harvest. But the Lord says, stop focusing on the harvest because you didn't plant those seeds. And that's the frustrating thing about ReLeader,
Yeah.
is you're standing in the middle of somebody else's harvest. I didn't hire these people. I didn't set this culture.
Yeah.
I didn't list these core values. I didn't build these buildings. I'd have picked a different color carpet, everything.
Right.
And he said, just take your eye off the harvest and start throwing down seed.
Yeah.
And he said, and there will come a day, and he was right. It took about 5 years. He said, there will come a day that you'll wake up and you'll be standing in your harvest.
Wow.
And that
so good.
helped me so much to just where I was focusing my attention. I was focusing my attention on things that I didn't build.
Yeah.
I didn't create.
Yeah. And, you know, like you said earlier, I think, you know, a lot of times it maybe wasn't God's will
Yeah.
to lose that leader in
Right.
that time or season.
Right.
Okay. For whatever reason, sin, death, sickness, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we only know the answer to those questions in eternity, some of those
That's right.
questions. But like you said, to honor those good things that they did,
Yes.
you know, and to celebrate those.
Yes.
But a lot of times you see ReLeaders come in and they're insecure and they just,
Yeah.
they do the, like you said, the
They wanna make it their own.
whiplash.
Yeah.
And so I think how important is honor and respect,
Yep.
even if you know the whole horrid story
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
the scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, God honors that, doesn't he?
God honors that, and I read a book. John Bevere wrote a book called Honor's Reward, and it radically changed my approach in that season because. So we would honor all the time. I would get up and honor. The former pastor's wife actually still attends our church. She sits on the front row every week. We honor her. We take care of her. She's the matriarch, in a sense, to our church.
Beautiful.
And so we want to honor her. My wife makes way for that. She's the matriarch of this place, and we want to love
Well,
her and
thank
honor
God
her.
you do that because you know how many times they're swept aside
Yes.
and they didn't do anything.
Well, we just in August had our 30-year anniversary of our church. Wow. We did a whole video production honoring Mark and Jennifer Crow. honor them right now. They're amazing leaders. God used them to build an amazing church. And one mistake doesn't negate a lifetime of obedience and faithfulness. And so I think honor is a huge, and here's the thing, when ReLeaders honor their predecessor instead of pushing off of them,
Yes.
people are attracted to that.
Yes.
They see you as a bigger person
Yeah.
if you can do that.
As long as God has someone or has appointed someone to be in an office,
Yeah.
you honor that office.
That's right.
And you allow God to do what he has to do to correct. You think about David and King Saul. I mean, even when David was so amazing with King Saul in that he honored him through all the craziness that King Saul was trying to do to him. But the one time that he did cut a little piece of the robe, and the servant brought it back, and he said, "Do you not fear the once anointed
That's right.
robe and office of the
God's
man
anointed.
God's anointed?" And then David immediately repented for
did.
even cutting off, because he could have killed him,
He did.
right?
He did.
But he still respected and honored him, and he let God deal with it. And so many
That's right.
times you see people interfering with that before the timing.
Yeah.
And that's important to let God deal with that office, isn't it?
David is a perfect example of this. Over and over and over again, you see him doing this. Even when they
Killed him.
Yes, and even when Absalom took the kingdom, and they went and killed Absalom, he was heartbroken.
Oh, I
he
know.
was heartbroken over that. He grieved over that. So honor is such a big part
His
of
heart
this.
was just something that would speak through the whole Bible. He'd be the greatest king of Israel, and even the New Testament, God would say he's the man after my own heart. And that's part of the reason why. So, Cindy, I know you have a question.
I do have a question before I say that. I just think even this teaching is great for corporations.
Absolutely.
This is amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What would you say to ReLeaders that are coming in, maybe to a church or maybe a corporation, but when there's sometimes a mass exodus,
Yep.
how does like you coming in and not focus on the mass exodus or those that have left, but what is the right thing, and how do you focus on
And
those
how do you
that are
not be
still?
affected by that?
Oh, there's no way to not be affected by it. I mean,
That would get in my head.
We probably lost, I would say we landed somewhere around losing about 35% of our congregation, which is about average, 30 to 40.
And you're telling the Lord, I had nothing to do with it. I'm just trying to fix
But it's hard not to take that on
It's
as a
so
personal
hard.
attack.
It's so hard because there's always a wave. I help a lot of churches in this area. There's a wave. There's the initial departure, right? And then the interim comes in. Thank God for the interim and the work that they do. Most people, there's a first wave of leaving. There's a second wave of people that are like, well, we're going to sit around and see who they pick. Then they bring in who they pick, and then there's a second wave.
Wow.
That one hurts.
Yeah.
That one's really hard not
How'd
to
you
take
get over
personally.
that?
I don't know that I did a great job of it, honestly.
You're still getting over it.
I'm still hurt.
Let's stretch your hands towards him right now, right?
There is a part of the book that I write about this concept of the work God did in me is not focusing on who left, but who's left.
It's good.
Who is left.
So
Yes. Who stayed?
Who stayed, because those people are with you. Let me tell you something. If somebody stays that long in that big of a wound, they were with you 100%.
Yeah.
Not to mention the new people that are coming.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I remember I had this talk with Kendra.
Yeah.
Cindy and I did. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And,
In
don't
Colorado.
focus on something or someone
Yeah.
who may leave.
Yes.
But focus on the new ones that are
That's right.
coming that God's stewarding
So
with.
good.
And it is difficult to do that because you think,
So hard.
I have given so much.
No, I
I've
heard that.
sacrificed family time
Let me-
to be with them, and I gave them this and that, and
I
they
gave
took this and
some
so,
of my daughter's clothes to their
oh my
children.
gosh.
Well, do you know who leaves are the ones that you've invested the most in? It feels
Yes.
like. It
Yeah.
feels
Yeah. It
like.
feels
I did
that
your
way.
wedding. I was at the funeral. I went to see you in the hospital. Those leave.
Yeah.
Those hurt, right?
I prayed for you in the
but
middle.
I'm-
I wonder if God allows that sometimes, because it does make you do some introspective
does some
work.
introspective,
to go like,
no doubt.
okay, was that about me or God?
With what the Lord showed me was Gideon's army. It went from 32,000 to 300.
Yeah.
Now, my church didn't shrink that much. I think if my church would have shrunk that much, I would have been in a major fetal position. But then you see what they go to do. So 300 warriors. The Bible says that when the enemy came to attack them, it said they couldn't count them. The camels and the chariots and all them said it was as big as the number of sands on the seashore against 300. And so the Lord was like, John, guess what 300 could do?
Yeah.
You know, so I know you're 30% less, John. I know you're 35% less, John. But if you'll stop focusing on who left and just look at the warriors that I've got right here in your midst, that we can still do some really amazing things.
And then you've got new people now that have come that know nothing of the history of what happened.
Exactly.
We're 10 years in. I've been the senior pastor for 10 years. Almost weekly, someone, so when did you start this church, John? They have no clue, you know, they have no clue. I would say, you know, 70% probably by now of that church doesn't even know who the predecessor was, other than when we honor him.
You know, I just, as I was sitting here, I kept just seeing some of you that actually work in the secular world, and you've kind of been in a ReLeader position. Maybe you've been promoted, maybe you're doing something, and you're over a group of people that you weren't before. And John can speak to this, but I think for me personally, what I have experienced, because we have 300 employees here, is that a true leader lets those people that are under them, you have a servant's heart, and you understand that they need to understand that you care about them and their well-being, and that's more important to you than even the work they do. I know for us, we talk about, you know, family's really important, and it's important to take care of people that are performing and doing well. But when you love people and you let them know you care about that they have insurance, or that, you know, that you care about what happens with their family. No, you can't get intricately involved in everything. You have department heads and all that. But when they know the leader is a servant leader, talk a little bit about that. Is that important?
Absolutely. I mean, what's the old saying? No one knows what you know. No one cares what you know until they know how much you care. And it all goes back to that building of trust, you know. And trust is gained by the spoonful. You know, trust is gained when you get out of your office and walk down the hallway and talk to people about their kids.
Just say hi. Just say, how are you doing? Or, and a lot of times, you know, maybe you can't talk about God or Christianity or anything, but you can still show the love of God.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you can take somebody out to lunch. You can give them a little gift certificate. You can, you know, you can, I mean, the Holy Spirit will just let you know how to handle some of the most difficult personalities, and those things can totally turn around. Did you see that happen with some of the people that you were leading? You're thinking, oh God, you're going to have to help me with this one.
Yeah, I mean, and you also see people that, you know, just to play the other side of the card, you also see people that you look at them and you go, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. And that's okay too.
That's okay.
Yeah, because you know what?
That's okay
if they're not thriving there, God has something better.
God has something better for them.
And
you
you're
love
not their
them
source.
through that. You love them through that.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that we never had to let anybody go. We never fired anyone, but I prayed some people out. I don't know if you've ever prayed some people out before. So I did a little bit of that. But yeah, it's
and you don't take
trust.
the position of God.
No.
In that you're the one who meets the need.
That's right.
You're the one who can answer the problem. I mean, you want people to be dependent upon the Lord, not you, because you know what? You'll disappoint them. I'll disappoint them. We'll all disappoint them.
And so many of the principles of this book, and just ReLeader principles that we talk about, what the Lord later showed me is, John, this isn't just leading. Like, I am discovering that I have to re-lead my marriage sometimes. I'm discovering that I got to re-lead the way I think.
And your kids.
My kids. I got to re-lead my health. Man, I've gotten a little out of hand. I need to get back. I have too many Twinkies. I need to get back. I need to re-lead myself. I got to get back in the gym. That's re-leadership. You know? And it's just, it's so much across the board that I've really been leaning into the re-lead your marriage and teaching some stuff on that. So it's just so applicable, you know, to so many aspects of our lives.
So what do you see ahead for not only the church that you pastor here in Grapevine, but also the church in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, so what we're leaning into now is we're in an interesting season as a church where I preached a sermon several weeks ago called What is Church? And we're really wrestling with this concept. We love the church. We love the local church. It's the hope of the world. But in some ways, I think we've gotten too good at it. And it's become a formula.
Yes.
And it's 4 songs in a sermon.
Or a program.
Or a program. And it's not, I must say this very, very kindly and very gently, it's not that hard to build a church, to grow a church, because we've created a formula for it. And so we're in a season now where we've just kind of tipped it on its head. Like, okay, well, I mean, we had several weeks ago, where we just had a good old-fashioned testimony service. That's all we did, the whole time. We just did anybody got a testimony? Testify? So we've just been exploring some of that. So we're so excited about what God's doing at our church, at the Grapevine campus. It's been really fun.
Or teaching the church to go.
Yes.
Versus not just about.
Well, we're teaching.
Yes.
We're saying, hey, we do so much of church in rows, and there's really no way to fully get away from that. But what if we came into church with the awareness that within 10 feet of me, someone's hurting,
Exactly.
and I'm so focused on a stage. Church has become a place we go to receive and not give of ourselves. And somebody around us is hurting. And what if we came in? I think that's that Greek word koinonia, where there's this connection vertically, but there's also community. And so.
And the outreaches, I mean, to me, that's what sets a local church apart from some others is that, I mean, I grew up in a local church. My dad and I were part of the bus ministry.
Oh, yeah.
And we went out on Saturday and gathered kids and brought them in. I mean, that was, in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing.
Or late 70s. I was just a young girl back then. But I remember that was my early beginning. But anyway, my husband talks a lot about that, people that just sit in a church but they don't serve in any capacity.
It's very common.
And I mean, we're supposed to be the light to go out and compel them to come in. You can't do that by yourself.
And when pastors, pastors talk a lot. When pastors complain to me about, congregations that just come to receive and not serve, and I'm always like, we did this. I mean, we created this monster. Whenever everything's about the experience and how was your experience and how was worship today and how was, when we'll leave church and ask each other, how was worship? Well, it was okay. The drums were out. We shouldn't be asking anybody how worship was.
They ran
God.
over just a little bit. To the rest.
The only person we should ask how worship was is God. God, how was my worship today?
Yeah. So good. So good. So good. Well, this has been so good, right?
Yes.
We're out of time. And that, I really believe that's a word for a lot of you that are watching right now. And there's some of you that have absolutely quit. And there's something on the inside of you that God has commissioned you to do and you're not doing it. And the word of the Lord to you today is to get back up.
That's good.
And start again. He's going to help you do it. He's going to take those things and those tough spots that you've gone through. He's going to use them, and you actually learned some very important lessons along the way. He's going to take all those experiences and use them to help you do an even better job than you could have done before. So you be encouraged. Well, I want you to remember you're not alone. And in this journey, just as Pastor John mentioned, Zechariah 4:6 reminds us, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord. One of my favorite verses. We used to sing a song with that wording. And of course, He will empower you to fulfill your calling and rebuild with purpose through His grace and strength. Well, if you're tuning in today and you need prayer, maybe you're going through a difficult season, maybe there's something going on in your life, maybe you don't know Jesus, we would love to pray with you. And I mean, it's so easy to pray that salvation prayer and invite Jesus into your heart. I always say my grandpa just said, Jesus. No, he didn't even say Jesus. He just said, God, if you're there, I need you. He didn't know how to pray any prayer, but his heart was open to God, and God transformed his life at 19 years of age, transformed our family. And you can do the same thing right now, and He'll meet you right where you are. We have prayer line number on the screen, prayer partners standing by. If you prayed that prayer, invited Jesus in, we'd love to hear about it. Love to send you the book of John. We want to send that to you absolutely free. I do want to thank Pastor John for joining us at the table. Be sure to get a copy of his book, ReLeader, How to Fix What You Didn't Break. And for information on his ministry, be sure to visit victory.church. Is that it?
That's it. Or you can go to ReLeader.co.
Okay, ReLeader.co. And as always, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms. You can leave us a comment. Let us know how Table Talk is touching your life. We love hearing from you. And you want to make sure that you subscribe to the Joni Table Talk podcast. It's available right now across all the top podcast apps. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you.
Ladies,
come back and keep us up to date on whatever the next book is, okay?
All right, we'll do.
Love to have you. Thank you, ladies. Hey, this has been great. I pray you've been encouraged today. Hey, get up. Get up. God's not through using you. See you next time. Bye-bye for today.